Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you surely know that this is my deep dive into an interesting and intriguing, a beautiful deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane. And just in case you are new here, let me give you a really brief overview of what you're about to see. What I do is every night before I go to bed, I shuffle my mass market version of this Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane. I shuffle it and I pull a card for the day. And then I take the matching card from my out-of-print charcoal gray and white deck, and I look at them together. And notice there are differences when there are differences. Sometimes the differences are small, sometimes they're great. And then I ask for help. How do I get my help? I use another deck. I use the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler, which I did a deep dive into in summer of this year. And so I'm a little bit more familiar with it, and I didn't want to set it aside while I do this deep dive, so I decided to use that as my helper deck, and I do a 3-card spread. I do a 3-card spread of energy, challenge, advice, a typical 3-card spread. And then I go to sleep and I live my day, and then the next day at the end of the day, now, I go back and review the meanings for the cards and how the cards interact with each other, and how those messages, those, what do we call them? The attributes of the cards and the zodiacal elements that are associated with those cards either revealed themselves during the day or did not. So, that's what I'm doing now. So I have already done my daily draw from yesterday. Let me show you those 2 cards right now. Isn't that exciting? The Empress, right? We got the Empress. Well, I got the Empress last night. And let me show you those cards again right here. You can see that they are slightly different. The faces look a little bit different to me. And the constellations on the planets also look, on the cards, also look a little bit different to me. This card has fewer stars than this card, right? This one only has 3. This one has many more. But they're both representing the same constellation, the constellation of Libra. Why would they have Libra on the Empress, you ask? Well, in this deck, the Empress is associated with Libra. And so what do we get with this card? Oh, by the way, the actual title of this card for the Egyptian Tarot is Isis Unveiled. Now, Isis, the goddess Isis from Egypt, unveiled, veil off, which is interesting because the high priestess is Isis veiled. Veiled Isis for the high priestess, and Isis unveiled, revealed, in the Empress. Very cool, right? And again, this is Libra, who is the domicile, or which is the domicile of Venus, right? So we have Venus, yeah, goddess of beauty, of plenty, of feminine sexuality, female sexuality, Venus. So the Empress points to Libra, which is the domicile of Venus, from which these cardinal air attributes enter our world. Cardinal air attributes pour from Libra through, pour from Venus through Libra into our world. And of course, through the house of Libra. So, what does that mean? Oh, also, what do we also know about this card? We know that the Hebrew letter here is Gimel, which is the 3rd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And Gimel is associated with, or the symbol for Gimel is camel, or sometimes rope. So we've got the camel idea. Now, if we want to include runes here, the rune for the 3rd rune, I should say, is Thurisaz. Thurisaz, which looks like this, yeah? It looks like a triangle on a stick, or a thorn, which is one of its meanings, yeah? It could be considered or thought of as a thorn, but it can also sometimes be thought of as Thor's hammer. And so Thurisaz is also is the symbol of or representation of a thorn, or perhaps power, protection, defense. Yeah, Thor's hammer is defensive and offensive, and overcoming obstacles. So we've got those meanings associated with the Empress, which is very interesting, is it not? We usually think of the Empress as flowers and gardens and rabbits hopping through and all of those, and pregnancy maybe, all of those wonderful things. But if we think of the third rune in the runic alphabet, in the Futhark, yeah, the old Futhark, we see that we've got this fairly masculine energy, this protruding image of Thurisaz. And so maybe that's why in this deck we've got a little more of, a little less of that soft, bucolic symbolism or attributes that we often think of when we think of the Empress. What do we have here? We have the idea of marriage or action. You have the joining together of things and the doing of things. Success in creative pursuits. We still have that creativity here, but creative pursuits. Mind over matter, which often we might think of as an emperor attribute, right? But we've got that here, according to C.C. Zane. We've also got thoughts being things. And remember, this is the third point in a triangle of power. Now we've got the 1 of the singularity, the monad, the 2 of the first division, which balances out the 1. And we might see him as yin and yang. And the 2 of them create the third, which could be a little bit of not exactly an androgyne, but a combination of those two things, right? So here we have the matter being created by mind. Thoughts are things, actions and reactions, unions of minds as well. We have a joining of things, which is kind of a Libra thing, right? Social activity, also a Libra thing. Line of least resistance, that balancing of things, mental and social pursuits, all Venus through Libra attributes, right? Which is a wonderful thing. And I think some of that was revealed for me during the day. There are also some cautionary tales in the meanings of this card, but I focused mostly on the less cautionary tales because, frankly, I didn't do much today. And there weren't that many obstacles that I encountered. And so I thought this was a good general background or wash to the day. And so I did my 3-card draw last night to help me unpack this one card, and let me show you those cards right now. This is a beautiful deck, isn't it? You can see why I didn't want to put it away while I went off and did my deep dive into the Egyptian Tarot. It's a gorgeous deck and rich with meaning and rich with zodiacal information, which I think works interestingly with the deck by C.C. Zane, the Egyptian Tarot, because the systems are very different. The way that the cards are arranged in the zodiacal chart are different. So I can't just say, oh, this is the three of Swords, and that 3 of Swords is just like the 3 of Swords in the Tarot of the Holy Light. It don't work that way. They're very different. So they are different, but they do speak to each other, I believe. And I think today they spoke together. They spoke within each group of cards and together as systems. And what am I trying to say? Let me show it to you right now. So you saw the 3 cards from left to right. Yeah, we had the Nine of Wands, we had the Devil, and then we had the Queen of Swords. The Nine of Wands was reversed, and we've seen the Nine of Wands in this deep dive already. I've seen the Nine of Wands very frequently in the past. One time when the Nine of Wands came up, I was about to fly out of Iceland, and the day that I flew out of Iceland, a volcano had erupted. I mean, literally, a volcano erupted just after we took off. So that was pretty interesting, right? Because on that card, you see a volcano. Well, let me show you that card right now. Here it is, upright. You see the volcano exploding in the background. You see the Nine Wands. And you also see two creatures, a fox, not a fox, a wolf and a ram, who have taken shelter inside of a cave because, well, there's a volcano popping its top off in the very near background. And here we have the Nine of Wands, right? Which is Sagittarius of Sagittarius, with the planet being Jupiter. The natural domicile of Jupiter is Sagittarius. And so in the Nine of Wands, what do we see? We see that this card points to the Sagittarius decade of Sagittarius. Yeah, Sagittarius has three decanates. The Sagittarius decade, then we have the Aries decade, and then we have the Leo decade. Right? 1, 2, 3. And this is the first one. This is Sagittarius of Sagittarius. I keep saying supersized Sagittarius, supersized Leo, whatever, because it's this two of the same. My own way of being cute. So the supersized Sagittarius and its subruler Jupiter, which is the natural domicile of Jupiter, from which these mutable aspects of mutable fire, vital energies enter our world. So we've got Jupiter beaming all of this energy through the Sagittarius decade of Sagittarius, and supersized Sagittarius, through the house of Sagittarius into our world. And this is very interesting. This is fascinating. Now, when it's reversed, we've got a little bit of a darker, more cautionary tale being told here. So upright, we're saying that there might be stuff going on. You might want to find shelter. Even if that shelter is being inhabited by your enemy, you might want to find a place to duck in and ride the storm, as it were, the storm of fire. In reverse, Christine Payne-Towler suggests that instead of finding shelter, it might not be time for us to leave shelter yet. It's not time to come out of shelter. The situation might not be quite ready or hospitable for us to reemerge, or we may not be ready or in a condition to reemerge. We might be punch drunk. We might have taken so many blows that we're not really thinking rationally or clearly or making the best decisions. So it's not the best time, like I said, to make decisions. Our faculties are possibly drained. It's time to seek support if we can find it, and maintain the support that we already have. It's time to accept no invitations that will put us in harm's way. Whether we know that it will put us in harm's way or not, it's best to be very selective about what invitations we will take up. And if we're going to forge close to home. Look around for things close to home rather than going out and searching out something new and pretty and exciting. This is not the time for that. So again, we've got Sagittarius of Sagittarius, which is supersized Jupiter. And we're going to see those two things again in just a moment. But this is an interesting card, right? And being that today was a day of, I'm not solitary confinement, I've been there before, but a quiet day with no classes, nothing particular to do, that message seemed to make sense. And, well, let's move on to the devil, which is something we always want to do, right? But maybe we do. Maybe we do. We get Sagittarius and Jupiter emphasized in this card. So let me show you the devil. It's a beautiful, beautiful devil. A very interesting and very different devil, right? We've got these we got the the devil figure is the anthropomorph. Yeah, we've got the male and female side of combined in this one being. And above that, you see these peacock feathers, which are beautiful. You see a spout of fire and a spout of water. You see that alchemical balancing of elements, right? Below the devil, we see a male and a female presenting. We see a female presenting being and a male presenting being coming together in a possibly passionate embrace. Lovely card. And the divine triangle above, we've got what looks like, it almost looks like a Leo sign, but I look for those because I am Leo. Probably it's not a Leo sign there. But it's just a gorgeous card. We've got this beautiful green background and green underfoot. The sun between both of the human-looking lovers down there. Do you see the sun down there? So, the devil. In this deck, it's not Capricorn, it is Sagittarius, which is the natural domicile of Jupiter, right? So the devil points to Sagittarius, which is the domicile of Jupiter, from which these mutable fire, vital attributes enter our world. It's fascinating. And the Hebrew letter that's associated with this card is Samek. Now, Samek looks a little bit like an O, and it can be a symbol for support, like a cane could be a support, or a beam can be a support for a wall, a support, or a prop, like that, something that props something else up, or a fish. Which is interesting because fish are the Christian symbol for Christ, right? The devil, Christ, very interesting balancing thing here. And the shape of the letter of Samek reminds us of the Ouroboros, right? The snake which eats its own tail, giving us an idea of eternity, infinity, but also a void in the center from which things can be born, and an eternal renewal of the material. It's also in runes the card for, or the number of, Algiz. Now, Algiz looks kind of like a chicken's foot. Now or maybe a peace sign reversed, the old-fashioned peace sign. So we've got one bar here and two little bars there, forming like a Y with a male genitalia pointing up in the center. And Algiz is the letter for the elk, the horned deity. Horned deity. Where do we get that idea in Christianity? The horned deity is Satan, right? But in Celtic lore, that is the horned deity for protection, for openness, for happiness, for life force, all of this safe power. And the devil, it depends on the way you see the devil, or how you decide to approach the devil. Are we going to approach the devil as an evil being, or are we going to approach the devil as a beautiful being that was cast down? Or are we going to approach the devil as something else entirely? I mean, there are many ideas of Lucifer, bearer of light, who is so proud he falls from the heavens and is ensnared by the material world and trapped here for eternity. Perhaps to be redeemed at the end, at the final judgment, or perhaps not. But there's another way to appraise, to apprehend Satan, or this devil card. And we'll get to that in just a minute, because we'll get to it right now. The Satan figure can also be seen as Sophia, the divine wisdom, who was charged with or took the role of the creatrix of the physical realm, of the physical universe. And in creating the physical universe, wound up trapped here, wound up ensnared here, or perhaps decided to just stick around. So here we may see the goddess powers reawakening in Trump 15. Now we may see Sophia awaking from her dream of the creation of the material realm. We also see these two figures coming together, right? And we get the idea, yes. And also on the arms of the devil being. We have on one side, which side? On this side, yes, on the green side, we have solve. On the pink side, we have coagula. Solve and coagula, dissolve and coagulate. Two actions of the alchemical process. Dissolve, coagulate. And so here we have aspects of self and other, perhaps, or we also could have aspects of self, the dichotomy of aspects of self here that are dissolving into and coagulating together as one being, if that makes sense. It's the idea of, and this is not an easy word to trip off the tongue, syzygy. It's spelled S-Y-Z-Y-G-Y, syzygy, which means two into one. That begins regeneration. It's the union of apparent opposites of a spectrum. For example, the anima animus joining together, or yin-yang joining together. Perhaps not so much things like value judgments like good and bad joining together, but polar pairs that join together and recreate, and in so doing creates a resurrection or a regeneration and a healing and a preparation for the rising up, a return to the non-physical. For example, other ideas might be Osiris and Iris, Christ and Sophia merging together to initiate the words. In A Course in Miracles, okay, so in A Course in Miracles, the atonement, that's the word, to initiate the atonement. And here we have the Sagittarian power again. The power of desire, when focused, is unstoppable and irresistible. So there is some caution to be had here. That power can be dangerous and overwhelming if we're not ready for it. And so that might be where a lot of the times we get the idea of being trapped here rather than being liberated. Because that power of Sagittarius, Jupiter beaming through supersized Sagittarius is powerful. And it requires an evolved, an individuated, a self-actualized being to be able to make use of that power safely instead of being overwhelmed by it and perhaps corrupted or broken apart by it. So there are all of these things together in this devil card. Yeah? The power of desire through Sagittarius. We have the opposites merging together and being reborn as something new. We have the Ouroboros, which is an eternal process of regeneration and also a birthing locus for the new. We have the horned deity of protection and openness, which has been misapprehended and misunderstood by most of us through the centuries, through many, many centuries. All of that, I think, is here in this devil card. And I prefer to think of this card as Sophia awakening and reintegrating and rebirthing herself, perhaps. Because the next card for me is one of my favorite cards in most decks, was the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords. You see is Libra, right? You see the queen with the sword very gingerly held over her head, well, behind her head, right? We have angels holding up the divine eye above her head. We have wings. Her spiritual wings are unfurled and ready for flight. She is in an Ouroboros. She has perhaps birthed herself. She is in the center of eternity. She has the power of spirit pouring through her. And she is, again, Libra. So the Queen of Swords points to Libra, which is the domicile of Venus. Again, remember we had Venus in the Empress card, right? We had Libra and Venus in the Empress card. We have Libra and Venus right here again. So Venus is beaming all of her beauty through Libra. So we have cardinal air, vital attributes entering the world. From Venus, through Libra, through the house of Libra, to us, to bathe us in beauty and creation and union. And also through air, right? The cardinal air, the pointing forward of powerful air. It's the get up and get going kind of air. So who is she? She's the sophisticated one. And she has an apprehension for nuance and an appreciation for her mental faculties. And so all of those things perhaps are called for in this card. She has perhaps psychic powers. She has that clarity of actual vision, like with the eyes, but also clarity of vision with the third eye. And she has a deep, piercing gaze that is unsettling. It can freak some people out, but it can also why does it freak people out? Because perhaps they unconsciously know that that gaze will not only see into their depths, but can also draw from them confessions, revelations, self-exposure, which people, frankly, generally do not like to do, don't like to engage in. So it unnerves people. And traditionally, the Queen of Swords has also always been the self-sufficient one, right? The independent one, the high intellect and wit. If I think of the witty one of the courts, I think of her. She's the one with the brains and the clever way of being able to use both words and her mind. And Christine Payne-Towler also points to a saint, actually, that I have always had great admiration for, Hildegard of Bingen. Do you know Hildegard of Bingen? She was a nun. I think it was the 15th century. I didn't write it down, but maybe it was the 16th century. Anyways, somewhere around there. And she had a rather trying life, but also a brilliant life. She became the head of her nunnery, her convent, of her order. That's the thing. She became the head of her order, and she was able to move her nuns to the place that she felt that she was divinely instructed to move them to. It wasn't an easy process. There was a lot of resistance on the part of the larger structure of the church. The authority said no, and she said yes, and the authority said no, and she said yes, and she was able to finally get it done. So some of the interesting things about Hildegard of Bingen is that Hildegard of Bingen is that her talents were innumerable. That's what I want to say. Her talents were innumerable. Not only was she an excellent and astute administrator with great finesse, she was also a writer. She wrote poems. I think she also wrote a play. She was a visionary. She had visions. She had dreams. She had visions of the divine. And what did she do with those visions? She painted those visions. She was a painter. She was a healer. She healed those around her. She was, of course, a spiritual mother because she was the head of her convent. She was an artist, like I said. She was a poet. She was a composer. She was a composer of music. I can't think of one thing that she couldn't do if she put her mind to it, because she was that multi-talented. And so that's an aspect, or one way to see this Queen of Swords, I think. And if you ever have a chance, if you don't know of Hildegard of Begin's artwork or her poetry or any of that, look it up online. It's just phenomenal. It's amazing, especially considering the tools that she had to work with when she was alive. Just a brilliant woman, brilliant mind. So, what does this all mean for me? What's it all about, Alfie? Well, like I said, today I didn't really have much to do. So I went out to breakfast and I came back, and my apartment mate was still asleep. And so I went in, I decided to take a nap right around when he woke up. And I spent I had an interesting conversation through YouTube with Christine Payne-Towler, in which she revealed some really interesting information about other ways that I can use to approach speaking about and understanding zodiac, especially in relationship to tarot. And I'm still processing some of that. But as I was processing that, the idea of the sign being an adjective for the noun of the planet, I think that's what it was. I'll get back to you again at a later date with that. But as I was thinking about that and processing that, there's been something that has been nagging me for the last 6 months or more. And it's now that I've started to get my mind around the idea of the decanates within the signs, and that those decanates carry the planets that are their domiciles into the sign. For example, Sagittarius of Sagittarius carries Sagittarius's planet with it. But then we have Leo of Sagittarius, which brings the sun into Sagittarius. Yeah? And we have, what's the other one? Aries, which brings Mars into Sagittarius. So my mind has now wrapped around that. But then in Christine Payne-Towler's deck, not only do we have, for example, at the bottom of the Nine of Wands, we've got here what I just said. We have the Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius of Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. But we also have other information in the guidebook, which points to things like exaltations and falls and compliments and detriments to the cards. And all of that just seemed so random to me, and I just couldn't figure out how that worked. And so I decided I was just going to stop and figure it out myself. And I know that there's information in the guidebook which gives that information to us, but it's not presented in a way that I needed it to be presented. It's not presented in a way that my mind was able to put it together like a Rubik's Cube. So I needed to go and make my own friggin' chart. So I did it. I went and I put all the information together. And as I was putting that information together into one chart, I started to see what was going on. I found a chart of the exaltations, for example, and I noticed that, okay, when I look at the wheel of the zodiac, and it was online, but still, I saw that when I saw that this planet was exalted in this sign, in this house, that the opposite one is where that planet is in its fall. Yeah? And then I noticed and I remembered and I put together, and it really made sense now that the compliments and the detriments for the planets are based on the pairings, the signs that are, okay, so the complements and the detriments are organized in such a way that, for example, the signs that are associated to Venus, which are those? Those are Taurus and Libra. The complements for those are the signs associated to Venus's mate, Mars, which would be Aries and Scorpio, right? So the ones that are associated with the sun or the moon, the detriment and complement would be their pairing with what's it called? Saturn. And the opposite is also true. And then the signs for Jupiter and the signs for Mercury also interact in the same way. And so when I started filling in the chart and I started seeing the pattern, what I would do is I would just fill in the next line and then check to see if I was right. And I was right. And I would fill in the next line and I would check to see if I was right. And I was right. And so it started to sink in. I had to do that reconstruction for me to really figure it out. And so it was that I think was primarily what my day was about today. Sorry, got to move my leg. That's what I think my day was primarily about today, was really figuring out the structure of the zodiac related to tarot. Now, once I've got that chart, I can just slap cards into their right slots, because different systems will have the cards arranged a little bit differently. But now that I've got that figured out for myself, I've now added another layer that I'm not ready to read yet, but now I've got the layer there and I can start imagining it at least. I can start trying to figure it out a little bit more. And so that's why I think that Empress, the marriage, the success in creative pursuits, mind over matter, thoughts becoming things, that's what I did. And I did it by not going out and trying to find resources out there. I used the resources that are here with me, and I didn't venture out. We had a big snowstorm here. My roommate had yesterday thought to go to a nearby large town so that we could go to a large store and maybe get a pizza, maybe do a little bit of shopping. But my apartment mate decided, no, it's too snowy, let's not do it. And so I did the work of the Nine of Wands right there. I stayed close to home. I didn't venture out. And I did the work with the resources I had here, and I didn't expose myself much to other stuff. And so with the devil, I started to, I think, unchain myself from the prison that I had created for myself in regard to zodiac and tarot. I've started to dismantle those chains for me. I'm not saying I'm ready to fly by any means, but now that my mind has really started to grasp how this has been pieced together, I'll be more, I think, relaxed. I'll be able to relax into trying to open to understanding. Does that make sense? I'll be able to relax into opening to understanding the significance of that information. For example, the significance of the Libra, I'm not going to try to find that, and I don't have it memorized yet, but the significance of this planet being in a detriment in this sign and what that means. More to come. But like I said, I got that kind of figured out. And that might also be my Queen of Swordsness, right? That was the advice, to be this independent, to create, to think, to pierce through what the veil that I had created for myself between me and the understanding of what I wanted to know. Does that make sense? Well, if it does, let me know in the comments below. Tell me that makes sense. Please, somebody tell me it makes sense. As Katharine Hepburn might have said in the film Holiday in 1938. Never mind. So just tell me in the comments below what you think. And hit the thumbs up button if you're still here, so that I know that you got something out of it. YouTube knows that you got something out of it, and other people might as well. Also, hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I do one a day, and I will continue, if Lord willing, until the new moon in February. So if you want to know when I upload these things, hit the alarm bell. Also, if you want a private reading from me, in the description box, there is my email, thehangedmaninthemoon, all one thing, @gmail.com. All small letters. Send me an email. Say, I want a reading. We will get you a reading. Also, if you want to get these decks, you can get the deck by the wonderful Christine Payne-Towler. Let me show you some of the cards again right now. Here they are, the 3 cards from today. These are available at the link in the description box. Go order this deck now. It will help you. It will really help you expand your ability to read, I think, and the way you can read tarot by using this deck. It certainly has helped me, and I'm almost sure it would help you. And if you want to get the mass market version of the Egyptian tarot, which looks like this, very easy to see the images, and it's mass market. It's very inexpensive, relatively inexpensive, and it's on Amazon. So I've got a link to that below. Remember, I don't get any money if you use those links. So friends, there we are at the end of the day. Can you notice I'm a little bit more perky? I've taken 2 naps today. So, here we are. My creative juices from the Empress and the Devil and the Queen of Swords are all flowing right now. So I hope that those flowing creative juices have been of some benefit for you, or at least something interesting to watch. So friends, thank you. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.